जब भी दिल खोल के रोए होंगे, लोग आराम से सोए होंगे। बाज औकात बमजबूरी दिल, बाज औकात बमजबूरी दिल, हम तो क्या आप भी रोए होंगे। सुबह तक दस्ते सबा ने क्या क्या फूल कांटों में पिरोए होंगे। वो सफीने जिन्हें तूफान न मिले, वो सफीने जिन्हें तूफान न मिले, ना खुदाओं ने डुबोए होंगे। रात भर हंसते हुए तारों ने उनकी आरिस भी भिगोए होंगे। क्या अजब है वो मिले भी हों फराज, क्या अजब है वो मिले भी हों फराज, हम किसी ध्यान में खोए होंगे। That's a beautiful couplet from Ahmed Faraz. Good evening and welcome to Sheetal of Conversation, Sunday evening, 7 p.m. IST show. I greet all of you for today's show, and we are in our 109th conversation, live conversation today, and our 108 conversation spread over the 3.5 years span of time have been able to an extent catch the attention of the people who are searching for something scholarly, something connected with the roots, something about the civilization. Uh, I think we have been employing best possible brilliant minds of contemporary times, and all the shows are available now on archives. Anyone, any researcher, seeker, uh, or anybody for that matter, the scholar, they connect and they even communicate to me on my WhatsApp messages. So YouTube archival is already there. Today morning, I was just thinking, it's a December month in India, and I was basking in the sun in my patio, and the sun gives a beautiful feeling. It gives a very warm feeling, cozy feeling. All your, pores are, brightened. So you become a kind of a, you become kind of a very enlightened. You feel very, very esteemed, and your coziness and happiness and joy comes in, especially in the winter months. And that happiness further travels down, and sometimes, to an extent, it goes back into your heart and soul, touches your soul, and something becomes that this is the moment of life. This is what our life is, the great, salubrious, joyous life. But this is also a delirium, because when you see the interplay of the chilling breeze with the sun rays, the golden sun rays, you can find and derive at that this is not a final state. Everything is temporary. So maybe after the sun, it will be again. The cloud will come and it will eclipse the sun. Everything will change. So this whole life and existence, as it is in duality. There are happinesses and there are sadnesses. There's a compassion. There is cruelty. There's a day. There's a night. There's immaculation and there's ugliness. There's love and there is hatred. So there are a number of ways, and in between these two pillars, the other shades, which are nearing to these pillars, these poles, these extremities. So that's how life is, and when we talk about another dimension of life, it is time, and time, time is it's an elusive term, and they say that it has come after the space, and time, just be on the shoulders of that eagle known as time, flying over it. It can take you, if you are wisdomful, it can take you to the places, and time again. It can make you travel into the space, to the horizon, to the eternity. If you are wise or otherwise, also it can shrink you to down to a particular moment, and then you are bound by its boundaries, its intricacies, its complexities, its dualities, and all aspects. But that's what it is all about. And somewhere down the line, the great scientists in contemporary times, great reformist, from the 17th, 18th century onward, when the scientific development happened, industrial revolution happened, everything became to make us cozy and happy in all kind of all weather seasons. and all kind of dualities and deliriums. But then again, that's a man-made thing, and we don't know how far eternity is. So that is the whole situation we always deal with. And sometimes if we take to an advantage the situation to an advantage, we can still say that we can fly on the wings of the eagle known as time, and go to our roots. Roots are something which give us great of nourishment. It rejuvenates us, it revigorates us, it gives us esteem, it tells us what we are. I'm in my study, and I have this one book, beautiful book you must have read about, Roots. Alex Haley's Roots. It's beautiful. It writes wonderfully. A New York Times reviews the Roots is a study of continuity, of consequences, of how a people perpetuate themselves, how each generation helps to doom or helps to liberate the coming one. So that's how the roots are very important. And in Shitala's conversation, we have been trying somewhere down the line, because we are scattered, Kashmiris are scattered across the globe now for whatever the reasons. We had many, a number of programs on that. But today, I may talk very briefly about it. So somewhere down the line, we are touching back to the roots and the civilization and its contours and its meanders and its, everything around, and the gregarity, and, in its landscape, in its colors, in its textures. We have been able to engage, great people in our conversations, the brilliant people in our conversations, in the most articulate manner, in most integrity, with great integrity and great honesty and scholarship. And we have been able to just go into and plunge into this past millennia and the centuries, and you know the decades. Especially we are very awfully gone into the previous decade, previous century, and where we have been, talking about the great painters, great educationists, great journalists, literary wizards, and songs, the poets, culture, the tradition, men and matters, monarchies, transitions. We have also talked about the foreign travelers, whether from time immemorially, who have come to Kashmir, maybe from China and Arabian countries and the Western countries and Europe and America. So we have also gone into those arenas, and we have tried somewhere down the line to toe the line with the chronicles, with the literature, with the treatises, with the travelogues, and also we talked about the hamlets, the streets, the towns, sleepy towns, and many other things, the architecture, the sociology, the folk memory. So, it is just a humble beginning. We are on our 109th show, and yet this will go. This is a continuum process, and let's see where we reach. And this certainly is going to be today is another addition in continuum to this whole journey. I feel once again very much honored that all of you are here to witness one of your favorite Shidla Conversations show again in this Sunday. And today I'm going to, before we proceed further, I'm going to say that today we are once again going to talk about a Kashmiri native who's settled in the United States of America. We're going to talk about his days in Kashmir, his panorama of Kashmir, how he has seen Kashmir and life in Kashmir and India, and then in United States of America, and also in Africa. So we are going to talk about all these things. This native of Kashmir is none other than Dr. Ashok Raina. He is an eminent senior scientist, an entomologist, world famous entomologist, and who has a great presence, and who has a great recognition across the globe, especially in the field of entomology. Well, of late, he has also, when he has taken the retirement to do, as I said, we were talking about Alex Hesley's roots, connect to his roots, and he has started, probably a few years back, he has started writing down his biography. Actually, I don't think it's a biography. We'll ask him what it is all about. It's all about the events and the landscape and sociology and all other aspects about his life spent in Kashmir and other portions, and then his happinesses, joys, triumphs, and griefs as well. So it will give a very wonderful, panorama and a spectacle about the life witnessed by him, and that's how it is. And feeling homeless is one of the great name. It's a metaphor. I don't know how will he correlate with it. We can begin from that. And he has also, done kind of Mahima Stota and Gauri Stuti. He has translated them, he has done transliteration for them. These two scriptures, there's spiritual scriptures. And then he has also written a book it's a compilation of articles by the eminent people, the people who have kind of a knowledge and expertise in this line. Especially, I know a few, and Dr. Kashinath Panta was in our show, and it is about the Kashmir and its pundits. It's a compilation. It's a kind of a chronological from period to period. He has tried to recollect again, and that is the one book which we are going to. One of the famous books, one of the best book I really like to talk about is his book Reincarnation. Reincarnation is something which is very familiar with the Oriental, mindset, and there are a number of people, great scholars, great saints, great theologians, and their philosophers who have written about it. So certainly, we're going to open up to what he's going to conceive there. And he's the former alumnus from DAV School. We are going to know about DAV School in those days. It's a pre-Maharaja's time. Probably, I don't know. He's a pre-partition born personality, and then post-partition period he has done in DAV School, and then we can talk about he studied in those times. Jammu and Kashmir University was one. He has studied in SP College, one of the most prestigious and very famous and one of the oldest college in the valley. Like we have the Prince of Wales in Jammu, GGM Science College, which is known now. And then we are going to talk about his days in Kathua, because his father was a custom officer. So it's all the stories about those things, and we're going to talk about. And he has done great service to the field of entomology by, especially he's known by his research, very spectacular research in the field of hormones, pheromones, and biorotational methodology of pest control, etc. These are all technical terms for me and maybe for the common man. So we're going to have an outline about his success in this area, and so that he makes us understand in a very simplified way what does it actually mean to a common man. So he is with the research papers around his 170 very profound research papers to his credit, and these research papers along with his 6 patents to his credit. So he has been rewarded. Especially he is the fellow of Entomology Association of America, Entomology Association of India, and he has been editing many magazines, very reputed magazines in this domain, and he's also on the many prestigious committees. And he has been lecturing, traveling, and touring. He's a traveler and has traveled very nearer places in the Asia and far in the Europe and America and other places. And he has his memories and many anecdotes about the societies there and some connection with there and something like that. So we're going to talk about that as well. And he has been also a personality who was associated with Kashmiri Overseas Association, and I'm just trying to find out Kashmiri Overseas Association and the Kashmiri Hindu Global Cultural Center, and Indo-American Kashmiri Forum. So those are very prestigious and very well-known associations, and he has been its president and senior functionaries. Probably it was a kind of it's a wonderful thing to be part of them, because we have our diaspora there, and as Axel Haley's book, I was saying that you can how to perpetuate themselves for each generations helps to do or to help to liberate. So question is, all these organizations, especially Kashmiri Overseas Association and Indo-American Kashmiri Forum, they have been able to, galvanize a kind of a bonhomie and connection to the roots and many other things, many other challenges they face in a foreign land. And I think his books are probably they are the great insight into the socio-cultural, historical, and geographical landscape. His values for the spiritual scriptures. So let's see how this discourse conversation unfolds. So before that, let's welcome into the studio Sri Ashok Raina ji, the great scientist, entomologist, a Kashmiri native who has made us proud and who's going to talk about his perspective of Kashmir. Once again, we're going to have another landscape recorded in the annals of our library and archives. Dr. Saab, you're welcome into Shitala Conversations 109th uh, historic show. It's our great privilege and honor to have you in my show.
Namaskar, Jugalji, and all the listeners. It's in fact a great privilege for me to be on this program. The name itself, it intrigued me when I heard about Sheetalnath conversations because right from the beginning, uh, I lived on Nice Sadak in Srinagar, and our house overlooked basically Sheetalnath. So right from day one, I've been very familiar with and intrigued by this place, Sheetalnath.
So this
Uh,
program, in a way, we have some similarities. Of course, our time is different, but our similarities that I'm also Sheetal Nathian, and this conversation was based. It's 10 episodes. The other 15 were, dedicated to the Sheetal Nath and its ethos, culture, tradition, the people coming there, the personality. So you are living this across the, that water sheet known as
right,
Mer.
right.
So
Mar, across the
we're
Mar.
living on the Yog Sabha, behind
Right.
Yog Sabha. So Hindu High School
And
was there.
Sheetalnath was the center of all the KPR Kashmiri Pandit activity. So all the meetings and everything used to take place there, and we could practically see it from our window. So Jagalji, you talked about the book and entitled "Feeling Homeless."
Yes, yes. I was going to. I was wanting to ask you this feeling homeless. What does it convey exactly? Because you are a settled scientist in the United States of America. You are a proud native, and living like other natives there. I can understand. This could be craving. This could be yearning. But let us know through your mouth, through what you want to convey on this.
Well, when I wrote the book and I was looking for a title, and I came up with this for certain reasons that I'll explain. But my wife was very critical. She was, in fact, very adamant not to use this topic. She said, "We have a house and we have everything, so why do you call it?" And I would like to go back few years. I was in Delhi and my parents came there. I'm the only child of my parents. They
Okay.
came there during the winters. This was in 1960s. And after a few months, he wanted to go back to Srinagar and said, "That's where home is." And when I go out and walk to Habakadal or other places, I meet people who ask me all kinds of questions, welfare. The same thing happened when I was in Kenya. They came there, and after a few months, his remarks were that we have food, excellent care, everything, but that homely atmosphere is missing. So I have outside the house, I have nobody to talk to. And the same thing, I think, in the United States, it's been nearly 55 years that I've been here. But even my grandkids who are born here, if they go out, they will always be asked, "Where are you from?" And that's
Hmm.
just by the looks of it. So you may have everything, a house and all the luxuries, but you miss certain amount of it. I feel because back in in 1967, I got the first shot when I returned from Aligarh after getting my master's.
Yes, yes.
And
Actually, before that, what we will like that I would like you to before coming to Aligarh, we'll just that's a very interesting. I mean, your score in Aligarh when you were a student's president also. But before that, I would like to go back to your younger days. You have a childhood is it has you have been brought up in different place because your father was a custom officer, and you were in Kachua, then in Riyasi, then in Srinagar, and later on SP College and DAV School. Tell us something about this, not only the institutions. How was your observation? What are your recollections of those days in Kashmir and all these places?
well, about the Kashmir before leaving Kashmir, the greatest recollection that I have is from 1947. My father at that time was posted in Anantnag, and uh, right about when the Kabaili raiders were on the outskirts of Srinagar, uh, my parents and I, we were traveling by a Tonga from Anantnag to Srinagar. And I can, even to this date, not forget that scene. We saw hundreds of thousands of people going in the opposite direction. They were all leaving Srinagar
Oh,
and going towards Jammu. And here we were going towards Srinagar. And my mother asked him, she said, everybody is leaving Kashmir and we're going there.
back to
And
Kashmir.
yeah, and he said, well, if we have to die, we better die in our home
Oh,
among our relatives, kith and kin. So these are the things. But then after the independence, he was posted at Lakhimpur, and most of you do not know where it is, but it's the border between Punjab and J&K.
I have spent my childhood in Madhopur. Madhopur, it was very near
Well,
to Lakhimpur.
right,
That's
right,
another
right. So you,
coincidence.
yeah. So, so I spent 6 years of my early childhood there, and the primary school I went to. But one of the most interesting things was we had a local teacher there, Baburam Gupta,
Baburam
and
Gupta.
right,
Your
and
turn.
and one thing, it's unbelievable that he used to teach us math without using a notebook or slate as we had those days. So
My
this was
goodness.
a mental exercise. So he would give us problems in addition, subtraction, multiplication, and we didn't have to use any paper or anything. Just do it in our mind. And to this date, the advantage is when we go to a grocery store, and before the checkout clerk, finds out what the change is due, I have it already calculated in my mind. So that was a big advantage.
Great teachers
Right,
in those times. Yeah.
right. Uh, and the other great experience that I had, unfortunate one, that Shama Prasad Mukherjee, the Jansangh
Yes,
leader those days,
yes.
because there was a permit system. Anybody from
Visit Kashmir.
India could not visit Kashmir without getting a permit, like a visa you need.
Oh,
So he just wanted to abolish that system or have the
okay.
government abolish that. So he came without a visa and was arrested there, and we all got exposed to the tear gas. Then, after my primary school, I went to 2 years in Kathua, the middle school. I don't have much recollection of that period, but
Okay.
then we moved back to Srinagar, and came the great DAV High School, Amira Kadar.
So it
Some
wasn't. It was in Amida Kadal first,
It
the
was it
earlier
was
DAV
in
school.
Amira Kadal. Most of the
Okay.
people nowadays, if you mention DAV school, they think it's the other location. Not the Many people are not familiar with the Amira Kadal
Yeah.
location. And we had a great teacher there, Shamunath Kachruji, and really people. I think everybody enjoyed. The ironic thing is, some 20, no, it was more than that, years later, when my son went to the same school, and same Shamunat Kachru was teaching him.
Hmm.
So it was, I visited the school once when he was in class.
Hmm.
And the greatest thing about him was that he used to teach sex education. That
In
that
those days.
in those days,
My God.
it's amazing.
It could be
Uh,
sacrilegious in those times.
well,
Blasphemy.
so some of it was, not correct, biologically correct, but he had great ideas, and he knew why to teach it. There were reasons. So anyway, from there, I went to SP College, and again, nowadays I see parents spending sometimes months getting their children admitted in a college here, or even in India, it is that way. It's a very lengthy, very tedious process. But I went to SP College and stood in a line where I saw my friends, and it happened to be medical area, which is zoology, botany, and chemistry. And that's how I ended. And after graduation from SP College,
Yeah, you have some memories of SP College, SP College as an institution, the teachers.
yes, one of the things that it will stay with me all the time is we had in both zoology and botany, we had demonstrators. These were people who had done their masters and come back, and they were the best dressed people in Kashmir that time. They
Oh,
would spend the afternoons after the college in coffee house, but lots of students, and even I sometimes imitated. I got my first suit made, which was a copy of one of our demonstrators who happens to be still alive and around. God bless him. So,
and you are
yeah,
talking about the coffee house of Regal Chowk? Regal Chowk?
yes, yeah.
Okay.
And the other thing is we had two cinema halls very close to SP College. These were Regal and Amresh.
Amresh, we don't know, but Regal
Regal
he
is
was
still
in our
probably
time.
there. Yeah, Amresh was in the back of the Regal, and we used to cut classes and go watch movies. And one of the things I remember very much about is that there was a very heavy rain, and the hall got flooded. So in the third class, if you have heard of, third class was the cheapest, and in the front, the benches were floating. So we
Yeah,
were
they would keep the benches and smoke. It was smoke all around. In our
right.
times, it was smoke. Yeah.
So we were almost, watching the movie in a boat. So
Looking
it was
upward.
right. And so those were fun days, but I didn't, I was not a, uh, upper division or um, student. And with the result that when Srinagar Medical College got opened those days, I did not get an admission there at the medical
It
college.
was which year? Which year, sir?
I think it was 1960 or 61,
Oh,
around that time.
somewhere I'm born around. That's the
And
dates I'm born around. Yeah.
ironically, its administrator was Dr. Fazl Rahman, and who happened to be my father's classmate in school. So I asked him if he could approach him, and he flat out, declined. He said, You have to get admission on your own merit. No, I will not interfere in that." But
Anyway,
then that ended my schooling in Kashmir that time. So after that, my father had opened a tire retailing workshop.
You are in a business, brief business encounter you have. I
Well,
heard about.
two months, yes, very brief, 2 months. But the people that we had to work with, mostly, truck and bus drivers,
Hmm.
I just could not handle that.
Those
So,
people were too rustic to be
yeah,
dealt with.
right, right. Yeah, the language was not acceptable to me. And so I left that and I applied out of the blue. There was an ad in the local newspaper, and I applied for that position, not knowing what the position is.
Hmm.
It was Commonwealth Institute of Biological Control in Bangalore. And
Okay.
you can imagine, me sitting in who has never left Kashmir or the state J&K, and I get an interview letter, and I travel all the way from Srinagar to Bangalore. And it was quite a journey, 5 days.
5 days journey in those days. Yeah, you might have to travel through the this, the cart road, Banal cart road, and then finally
Right, there
to,
was the old tunnel. Uh,
yeah, Jawahar
not
Tunnel.
not the Jawahar Tunnel. No, no, not Jawahar Tunnel.
There was no Jawahar Tunnel.
No,
Okay.
no, there was another tunnel, Banhal Tunnel. So
Naturally, okay.
we used to go through that and reach Pathankot and then took a
It was a
train.
very risky journey in those days.
Yeah, would take generally overnight journey.
Okay.
And so, finally I got to Bangalore. And since I had run out of most of the money that I had carried, I asked the coolie at the station, I said, could you find me a uh, cheaper place to stay?
Hmm.
He took me to Goshia Sarai, and this is in Cottonpate in Bangalore.
Hmm.
And uh, the manager in that place, he was a mullah, and
Okay.
it was pretty cheap. It was probably, I think 1 rupee for the room for a night. But the first thing
Bangalore must have been a beautiful place at that time. Now it's overcrowded.
it is it's nothing like what it is now. And so, but this guy took me, when he asked, "Are you from Kashmir?" and I said yes, and he thought I was one of those fairywalas, selling shawls. And so,
Hawkers.
he opened up his mind. That was the first ever I felt how certain people in India feel. He said, and I still remember those words. He said, we are stuck here in the middle of India, no choice to go anywhere. But you guys in Kashmir are very unfortunate that being right next to Pakistan, you could not be part of Pakistan.
Oh my
This
goodness.
this is a
That
fellow.
sentiment. Oh,
This is a fellow in Bangalore. So after a while, after listening to him, uh, I, my response was not that enthusiastic or positive. He must have guessed that I'm not one of those fairywalas.
naturally.
So he said, "Aapka isme sharif kya hai?"
It's
So
Sharif's name. Yeah.
name. So when I gave him my name, I could see, his color faded. He just turned pale. He said,
Cold.
These are personal ideas. You just put
Yeah, I
your
mean,
name."
you cannot. I mean, this is all what all part of learning and varies from individual to individual. So
Right,
yes,
right, right.
yeah.
And but next day when I went for the interview, the director of that institute was surprised. He said, "You came all the way from Kashmir for the interview, or did you have any other business here?" I said, "No, I just came for the interview." He said, "You got the job." And then he asked me where I was staying, and I said Gosha Sarai in Cottonpate. He's just stopped me right there, and he called his PA and said, "Send a car with Mr. Raina. He is staying in Gosha Sarai. Bring his things over here."
Oh,
So
great.
I spent next 3 weeks living in the institute. You used to they had used to have these camp cots, so we used to sleep on those and do the training during the day part. And I finished the training in 3 weeks and then came to Kashmir. I was just 20 years old that time. And he asked me, he said, you have to open a station, research station in Srinagar. So I rented a house. I hired 3 people, and I was supervising when I was just 20.
My goodness. A very
And
young age.
right, right. And but this job required, as we found out that Kashmir got cold in winter. So I planned it this way that we used to spend 4 months in Srinagar, 4 months in Pahalgam, and 4 months in Piparia. Piparia is a very small town near Pachmari in Madhya Pradesh.
Piparia, I've heard, yes. I've
Yeah,
heard this.
yeah. It's
Yeah.
so it was a wonderful 3.5 years I spent. I made discoveries, but I soon found out that unless you have a master's degree, you're not going to be able to make much progress in terms of recognition. Yeah, and then I went to Aligarh.
And Aligarh, we want to know about Aligarh of your times because there are many, many personalities, Sir Syed and all those people who had started it, and later on, generations of people who were into the freedom struggle. And I also heard that you have been elected as a president, student, despite of the
Not,
fact that
not the president, but one of the cabinet
office.
members.
So one of
Yeah,
the members, one of the
yeah, one of
members.
the members. No, uh,
Okay.
a
Because I
non-Muslim.
know about DP there when he was studying in Allahabad at Lucknow University. He was elected as President Students Union there
Right,
because I had a conversation with his son Vijay Darji. So
right.
he talked about, yeah. Please go ahead.
So eh, Aligarh was, yeah, it was quite different. One of the things that sort of surprised me was that we had a university mess. The food, where food used to come from, and the only thing that they were serving was buffalo meat.
Buffalo, okay.
Yeah, so there was no choice. There was the tandoori roti and the buffalo meat.
My goodness. Buffalo, nobody would eat among
No,
our folks.
everybody was eating. There was no choice.
Oh,
So what some of the Hindu students at that time did is we started our own private mess. We got the
okay.
permission from the university, and we started a mess of our own, and it worked fine. So I was even a mess manager for 1 month,
Okay.
and I introduced the concept of vegetables because most of the people in UP they like potatoes and things like these dal,
Dal,
and
potatoes.
so I introduced vegetables. Anyway, I did contest the student union elections, as was elected to the union cabinet as they call. So I just sent a letter after
Yeah,
election.
I heard that you said dashed a letter to your father that
No,
you have been
sorry, no, I
elected
didn't
for a
send a
cabinet.
letter. I sent a telegram. The
A telegram
telegrams,
was there. That was a
telegram.
problem.
It had to be very brief. You cannot be very descriptive in a telegram. So I said elected to the union cabinet.
Your father must have been
So
astonished. I mean, what is he saying? Yeah.
yeah, they were all puzzled. They said, union cabinet meant the central government, and he has left the state and joined the union cabinet. So anyway, the following letter then explained because there was no phones that time.
Mm.
And but one of my see, incidentally, I think Sheikh Abdullah went to Aligarh Muslim
Sheikh
University.
Saab was in Aligarh Muslim University.
Right,
He studied from, and many other
right.
people. Yeah,
So,
Kashmiri
so
politicians, many. Mufti
yeah,
Muhammad Sayyid. They were the later generations, but yeah.
yeah. With that background, one of my professors after the election said, "Did you come here to study, or
Or
like many of the Kashmiris join politics?" and, and I got the message. That made a big change in my study habits, and I did very well. And because I had 3 years of my work experience, I was very well respected by the teachers there. And but a lot of Kashmiri students there missed rice, the
rice.
batta. So in one of the hostels where it was called Kashmir House. I didn't stay in Kashmir House, but they made a demonstration at night and
Hmm.
were shouting "Ha Bato." So and you know
But is something very important for us. Even if we eat anything on the day on the platter,
yeah,
but we need a bata
we have
when
to
we are
have
home.
batta. We have to have batta.
Yeah, that is
And
something.
the other thing, of course, was that the Indo-Pak War of 1965 happened then.
65. Oh, you have those
65 war.
memories.
Yeah.
Tell me
And
something about.
and what they did is the university administration, they confiscated all the transistor radios from the students because most of those students were listening to Radio Pakistan,
Oh, that's so wonderful.
and they were talking about like having lunch in Amritsar and
Yeah, Ayub
or
Khan had
breakfast in Amritsar and
Ayub Khan
lunch
had
in
told
Delhi.
Shastri ji, but when finally they won, India won, so Shastri ji said that Ayub Khan Sahab wanted a tea in Delhi, so I thought that why to give him a trouble? Why not to go directly to Lahore and have it there?
That's right. Yeah.
Shastri was a great man. Yeah,
Yeah. So, and I was in Aligarh when he passed away in Tashkent,
that
Shastri, and made a train journey from Delhi, from Aligarh to Delhi, and
mm,
that's another memorable thing. But after I got my master's degree, I came to back to Srinagar, and that was the year when they had opened the agricultural college in Sopor.
yes, there's one college there, Vajuda.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And so I applied for a position there of a research associate, and I got the position.
Mm,
But then it had to be ratified. The order had to be ratified by the Secretary of Agriculture.
mm.
And I used to go almost every day for about 10 days to the Secretariat. And his PA would say, Aaj sahab dore pe hain, or he is traveling, or he is in a meeting, or something, excuse. And this was the time, Jugalji, when Parmeshwari Handu case, if you
Must be
recall,
around 67, 67
right,
around.
67.
I was 5 years old then, but I have the memories. I have the memories. People thronging into our home, Sheetalnath,
Right,
rush,
yeah,
tear gas, and everything. It is Sadik's time. Probably Sadik Saab was the chief minister.
right, right. And so I walk into his office, this PA, and he told me, he said, leave Kashmir for us. You can find a job anywhere in India.
Oh,
So this was a clear message. And I took it to heart. I left the next day. And because I thought, there's no future, but I sometimes wonder if I had gotten that job in Sopor.
you would have not been go to such a vast exposure and
Well,
achievements,
it's
accomplishments.
not only exposure, but I would have probably not survived. So
Okay.
because of my views, you know,
Temperament.
nationalistic views. And so, anyway, I came to Delhi and I got a job with U.S. Agency for International Development.
Hmm.
And they had a pulse improvement project. So, pulse is all the pulses that we eat. And it was in collaboration with the Indian Agricultural Research Institute and Pusa Institute in Delhi. Um, so wonderful time. I joined as a research associate, but my boss, who was an American, he left. He came back to U.S. after a year. So I became the de facto entomologist of the that project because there
Okay.
was no other. So responsibilities have been coming to me unexpectedly, you know, and I did very well. In fact, my research of finding a insect resistance line of Bengal gram or chana was adjudged as the discovery of the year in 1969.
Oh,
So, and Dr. Swaminathan used to be the uh, head of the department, or no, he was the director of Pusa Institute at that time. So I had
precise.
good interaction with Swaminathan. Is probably one of the greatest authorities in agriculture in throughout the
Yeah,
world.
I've heard about it. It's a great
Right.
name.
So, but a very strange thing happened. One of our plant physiologists, who was an American, he took some seed, packed it in boxes, and asked his driver to drive. He was going to go to Pakistan, you
Okay.
know, and take this seed with him. And somehow the news leaked uh, to the government of India, and they stopped him on the border and confiscated the seed. This was a foolish act because he could officially he could send that seed. It
This is,
wasn't in, yeah, but
I mean, he
it
could
was
yeah, do it officially, and
right.
he did it illegally and tried illegal way.
All right.
Why did he
So
do? Why did he do so?
uh, just to get a favor from the Pakistanis at that time,
Okay.
you know,
Clandestinely, he wanted to reach
right?
in.
He wanted to bypass the Indian authorities,
Oh,
and so uh, that strained the relationship, and the institute was asked to pack up, and I started then exploring the possibility of coming to US to do my PhD here, and I got admission in three universities, and two of them did not give financial assistance right away, but the one in North Dakota, in Fargo,
okay.
they just gave an immediate assistantship. You know, North Dakota State University is a mediocre university. It's not one of the greatest, but something very. It was lucky for me, I think, has been always.
Learning.
There was a U.S. Department of Agriculture's lab there, which it was considered one of the best in the world, called Metabolism and Radiation Research Lab.
Oh,
So the university asked me to work there on my thesis research, and that certainly was really a very good thing in my life, I would say,
assignment.
because
A great
uh,
assignment.
I, I published 13 papers from my thesis, which is a record anywhere. So generally, people, if they publish two or three papers, you know, they think great, but 13 papers is a record. So after that came a very interesting period because I completed my PhD there.
How
For
was the how was your time in this period in Africa? Because you stayed in Africa and
no,
you studied
that
there.
that that comes afterwards.
Okay.
This was Fargo. You know, Fargo. It's the
Yes, even
north.
Fargo was a time you spent there. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's a very cold place. When you talk to anybody about Fargo, all they say is, it gets to -40 in winter. So, but uh, people were very ignorant about rest of the world, and certainly India. They didn't even know where India was,
Okay.
and
And how were they as a tribal? I mean, very uneducated or brutes kind, or very simple,
nothing.
simpletons,
Very
and
very simple. No, nothing aggressiveness. Very simple, down to earth people, and
so
so much so that people didn't lock their doors. You know, it,
my
it was
goodness,
it was it was
Ramraj.
it was a very nice place to live. Cold, of course. So we were, some of my friends and I were having coffee in McDonald's, and this native guy, uh, he said, "Where are you guys from?" And so one of us said, "India." So he said, "Where is India?" He said, this guy said, "North of Alaska." So he didn't have any idea where India was. The next question was, "Do you have houses in India?" So he said, "No, no, we live on trees."
Please. So,
And so came the next question: "How do you go up and down?" And he said, "We use elevators." And the guy, you know, he took it seriously. He thought he didn't understand. They didn't have houses, but they had elevators to go up and down the trees. And
and you had the similar question in US probably. I mean, in between we'll just have an introduction. Cow is the foster mother of human race, something like that.
yeah, I used to go to schools when I left India. My one of
Hmm.
my acquaintances gave me a set of slides. These were projector slides about India.
Okay.
Excuse me. So I used to show those slides to students and talk about India. And so one of the questions always students asked was, "Do you worship cows and not eat beef?" And so our university had this milk carton, and there was a picture of a cow on it with a writing underneath: "Cow is the foster mother of human race."
Oh.
And that came very handy because I used to explain to them that cows in India were primarily pets in households, and one would not eat, your
Meat.
own pet,
They would need to like the mother. Yeah.
right? And also, if a mother could not feed a child, cow's milk is what sustains it.
Hmm.
And the other question was about arranged marriages.
Okay.
So
What was it?
Uh, all the marriages in India arranged by parents, and so that time there was a great advantage of these arranged marriages. There was divorces were hardly known in India.
No. It might have
Because
been an unfamiliar term in
right,
those days.
and but things have changed now, of course.
Now people, there's very, it's a very almost 360-degree.
Let me just get a drink of water. If so, that was
So
a
you were talking about, yes, what we left the thread where you were talking about when you completed your doctorate there in Kenya and
Yeah,
sorry,
I
this.
had I had made a promise to my parents, as I said earlier, being the only child, that as soon as I complete my studies, I'd come back. So I applied to many, many positions in India. This was 74, and I did not even get a acknowledgement. And this was a time when Indira Gandhi, who was the prime minister at that time, used to almost every day say, "We have this problem of
Brain
brain
drain.
drain, brain drain."
Brain drain.
And much later, I think it was in 80s when I happened to ask somebody at Pusa Institute, I said, why didn't I even get an acknowledgement? Why was I not offered a job? And he said, because uh, there are lots of qualified people in India itself. So, they have to be given first priority. A-
Okay.
And then, in sort of hushed voice, he said, then comes the recommendations. You know, you have to have a recommendation to get a job.
Oh.
And most of the jobs are already pre assigned or predetermined. And that's why you didn't get any response.
So it was not different. India, rest of the India was not different from the Kashmir. You were heartbroken twice, in once in
That's
Kashmir and once in India. Yeah,
once
it
in
was the
India.
same.
That
Okay.
and with that strong feeling will answer your first question, why homeless? So
Yes,
I was truly made a homeless at that time. It's
you
a
were
feeling.
intending to come back. You had a strong feeling to be back, but you were
Yeah,
denied this.
yeah.
Yeah.
I had no intention of staying here. Lots of people who come here for financial reasons or other things. I did not. But if you look back and see the things I did in research and science, I probably could not have done that.
You've done it
Those,
in. You could have done it in India, probably, but not in Kashmir.
well, even in India, the facilities.
Were not available.
One of the greatest drawbacks there is you don't have freedom of research.
Oh,
Uh, it is what happens is there's this saying, very well famous saying, that bin guru gyan kahan se paun,
बिन गुरु ज्ञान कहाँ से लाऊं?
right? So, but in my case, it's a very strange thing that I never had a true guru. uh, I always ended up in positions where I set my own research. I determined my own. Of course, if I needed guidance, I would get it, but I determined what I need to do.
I heard that
And
you had been given an opportunity and offered the house of the late president Jomo Kenyatta, and which
oh,
the, in a job which you refused to actually hold because you didn't like the job at all. Otherwise, you would have been occupying a president's
well,
premise.
when we I came to U.S. in 1970, my wife joined in 72. But our two children were still with our parents in Kashmir.
Oh,
So for 6 years, this is something that I don't think you have picked up, but we stayed without them. They were in Kashmir with my parents, and we were here in the U.S. And so
great sacrifice.
after couple of jobs in U.S., I found this great opportunity of working in Kenya at the International Center of Insect Physiology and Ecology. So when I went there, the director of that institute, he said, I talked to a couple of people and they said, well, start looking for an apartment or something, a house. And the director said, no, no, you don't need to. I have an accommodation for you. And this came as a big surprise because no one had so far been offered a house. So I said, where is the house? And he said, our driver will take you. This was quite a distance. Lake Victoria is a very famous lake there.
Is
It's
there?
about 300 miles from Nairobi, west. And so we went there, and about 500 yards from the mainland is an island called Rusinga. And
Hmm.
on Rusinga Island, there was this beautiful house that belonged to Jomo Kenyatta.
Jomo Kenyatta, the former
Jomo,
president.
he had passed away.
Okay.
So I went to this house. It had all kinds of pictures there, and there was one with Nehru that he had taken, and lots of world leaders that he had visited. So, but
Gallery.
the problem with this place was there was no school, and our children had just joined us in Kenya. So that would mean that they had to be left in Nairobi, and I
Model.
would be in this island. And there was no medical assistance, no hospital or clinic or anything. And during the winter season, the island was cut off totally from the mainland.
Okay.
So I just declined, but I told him, I said I would take care of building the field house there, the field station.
Hmm.
So I used to go for the next 3 years, almost every month, in a five-seater plane. So I've done lots of five-seater plane travel between Nairobi and this Beta Point on Lake Victoria, and we ended up making a great field station there. Um, in fact, the inauguration was by President Moy of Kenya,
Oh,
and there's a picture of him in the book also, inaugurating that field station. So, but Kenya I found quite different. Kenya got its independence also from British in 1964. A few years after India. But unlike India, they had a pride.
oh,
So for them, their own people came first, and then came the British, or the white person. So they didn't care much about the white people as they cared about their own people. And the
that
other
is something
thing,
great.
yeah,
That is a native. I mean, you have to respect your natives first,
right.
preferentially. Yeah.
And the other thing was cleanliness.
Oh,
Kenya in general, I didn't find trash all over the place, just as you find in India, and or people urinating on the roadsides and things like these. So it was quite different.
civilized, very civilized people and
Right.
society.
When you refer to Kenyans, you say Habshi, or I
Yeah, we
forget
have
what
that
it's called.
preconceived
Habshi.
notion about
Right.
African countries, Habshis. Yeah.
But they're very were very different. On the other hand, you talk about discrimination. One time, there was a conference in Kerala. It was an international conference
Okay.
in Kerala, and three people were invited from U.S. Myself and two uh, of my white colleagues. I knew them, entomologists. So when we got to the airport in Trivandrum, Thiruvananthapuram, as it's called now.
Thiruvananthapuram.
Yeah,
Trivandrum.
and so the white two white people were taken to a very fancy hotel,
Oh,
and I was taken to a hostel and asked to share a room with some other person whom I didn't know.
my
So I
goodness.
I, I politely declined. I said I could afford a better place to
So that
stay.
is probably, I mean, I think from the British hangover, I mean, the legacy, Raj hangover thinks that mindset has been there.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely,
They
absolutely.
think they
Things
are
are
very
changing.
special and yeah. Our
I
Indian of the equal rank and equal aptitude and equal
right.
achievements, they are not the
I,
same. Yeah.
I have seen that things are changing now. They're
Now it's a
getting
complete shift.
better. Right.
Complete change. Entire country is now changing.
Right. Right.
Younger generations, they are now different. I mean, they are less of prejudiced, less of subjectivity, they're more open-minded, more advanced,
Right.
well-read. And then you have this internet, social media. This revolution has happened. Information is everywhere now. Information, history, knowledge as well. Yes, sir. So after that, you came back to United States of America.
Right. Yeah, I came back here and I joined the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and I made tremendous progress in
Hmm.
research. Once again, my strength in research comes from observations. So
Oh,
I see things, and that has helped me always discover new things. Pheromones, that's what I worked most of my that period in USDA. Pheromones are chemicals that are produced by female insects to attract males. And, it's nobody knew about how these pheromones are produced.
hmm.
They're very important. And yet, I was the one who discovered that there are hormones that control pheromone production. And this was a great discovery. This is already in the textbooks now of entomology. So that kind of work. So I advanced in my grade very rapidly. Within 6, 7 years, I reached the topmost grade in government service there for scientists. And it was not only the hormones and pheromones, but I discovered a new virus. Uh,
Hmm.
this was a completely new, total new virus that affected the reproductive system of insects and make them sterile.
So
So
you're a
they did.
trailblazer in this particular sphere of research.
Well, the funny thing is that the leading newspaper in Washington here, Washington Post, called me. He said, "Could we use this virus for population control?" uh,
That's the
uh,
funny
for,
thing.
Fortunately, the virus is very specific to insects. It would not affect human beings.
Human beings.
And, right, yeah. So, and
For population control, there are many things already achieved. You can do. You can.
if people want to follow that, yeah. But it's because if you look at the population, India is one third the size of U.S. and has three times the population of
Population.
so the density is 10 to 1 almost, and that we found during our recent visit to India. In fact, we were there in November, October, November, and traffic and population were the two major problems. Of course, the pollution is there, and so it was a wonderful period. But then my bosses asked me if I was interested in joining the administrative ranks, or go for administration. And after careful consideration, I made this unfortunate decision. I said yes.
Mhm.
So I went through a 2 year rigorous training program for administration, and then started applying for positions, and I was denied each time. You could see it very clearly. The people who were selected were not even closely competent to
Qualified.
me or qualified, but they got the job. So finally, I was given a position in Texas,
Okay.
and Texas is well known for discrimination, uh, and they don't like the non-whites basically there.
Oh, no
And
browns and blacks. Yeah.
right, right.
Is it still going or it has changed now?
Yes, yes, it is. It's a very subtle form of discrimination. Uh,
Subtle. It's very.
yeah,
Oh,
they will make every possible. way not to make it visible, but
Okay.
you feel the consequences of it. So and it was a very sad situation there,
Hmm.
and uh, I tried. Then I went to the court, and but I had a lawyer, an attorney, who was
Hmm.
not very well qualified, because well qualified attorneys cost a lot of money, and I didn't
Yes,
have that.
it has so much.
So yeah, and it ultimately, one of my bosses, he said, maybe it is better you go back to research, and that's what I did. And, so, and this time I was posted in New Orleans. New
Are
Orleans
you met
is,
a hurricane there at Katrina in New Orleans?
yes, in New
That's
Orleans.
also a very, very dreadful event or anecdote of your life. Yeah.
Well, in 2005, uh, we had a, very, it was not a very dangerous storm, to say. So we
Okay.
had a warning, and my wife had already come to Maryland, where our son lived, not because of the storm, but some other family business. And I left. It was a beautiful sunny morning that day, and so, but knowing that there will be pop-up power outages and other things, so I left for the next town. I went north, and very soon, uh, in New Orleans, if you look, it's like a bowl. Uh, it's deeper. It is lower altitude.
Hmm.
On the north side is a huge lake, and on the south side is a river. And there are canals connecting the lake to the river. And the bunds on these canals broke,
Oh, so it
and
was a breach.
they
Breach.
flooded the entire city of New Orleans. So we had a single story house, and it had 6 feet of water in it.
My goodness.
And that water did not come and go. It stayed there for 3 weeks
Stagnant.
until it was pumped out.
Drained off.
Huge pumps were used. So, but by the time, after about 2 months, when we came back, there was mud, nothing else.
Everything lost.
So 95% of our belongings were gone. And, but I learned that these are things, material things, they don't go with you at the last minute. So why worry about it?
Yes. That's
And
what the Oriental wisdom says.
yeah, but
Because Lord Krishna.
people
Yeah.
don't follow that. They don't understand
People
it.
don't follow that. They understand,
Yeah.
they don't follow. They don't realize that rather.
Well, they would not accept it. Probably they know, but they won't accept it. The reality of life. So the other thing is, after this, after things got cleaned up and everything, we couldn't live in that house, but the government provided us with trailers.
Hmm.
These are mobile homes that are 7 feet by 30 feet, and
Oh,
we lived for nine. That's what 200 square feet. It's the size of a large room. So we lived in that for nearly 9 months.
15 by 12 or 15 by 15, that would be hardly, yeah.
So you start understanding the value of space.
It gave
And
you, make you understand stark reality, stark encounter with the reality of life.
right, yeah.
That what is the value of place where we live and
Uh,
how you do without it.
right.
How do you feel and face without it? Yeah.
People wish. these huge houses, palatial houses, and they don't understand that you can basically live comfortably in a room. Anyway, that was the New Orleans story. So I retired after we went back. We lived in an apartment after that for 3 years, and I was those days working on termites.
Okay.
Termites is a major problem in India.
Yeah, it is terrible, terrible. We
demon.
had our house in Jammu. I mean, it was so. Although our wood was very quality, father had very seasoned wood, but yet, I mean, other houses where they were all tormented, but in our house still
Yeah,
this termite thing had happened
right.
because the garden was very near. Yeah,
Yeah, so wood, particularly with moisture, will attract termites. And but in India, even the papers, like newspapers and books, and they get eaten by. So one of my colleagues in Bangalore, I remember that she had a room full of magazines and other things, books, and she came to U.S. After 3 years. When she went back, there was just dust there. They were
my.
eaten by termites. So
It could happen even in the high-rise places as well.
not so much. If there's not wood in the construction, they have to find a way to get into the wooden, like you have wooden cabinets,
Boards, yeah, we call
board,
them board here. Yeah.
right? Yeah, you have to watch and see.
I mean,
Um,
and only a train accepting a leakage in the this drainage system or the water from the monsoons or the rains that only
yes,
can bring that effect of termites in the
right.
high rise. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to have moisture for them to survive. And
So what? How is the life in US? I mean, vis-a-vis your social life, co-relationship with the natives of US, and apart from your
well,
service, your
there
social
there
life.
is
Yeah.
it's a misnomer. There's no native in US. Everybody is
No,
a
no, I
native.
understand. I mean, present native, I can say present native.
No,
Present.
that's
There
what
are
we keep telling them. We said, You're not from, you're not the original inhabitants of US."
that's true. That's true.
The original people here were called the Red Indians.
Indians. They
Yeah.
call them Indians. Yeah.
No, Red Indians.
Red Indians.
Red Indians. And but they are you can hardly
Static.
see any. So
American Indians. They are also known as American Indians.
they are also known as American Indian.
American.
Yes, now the terminology is like the black people are not called black; they are called African Americans.
Yeah, black is a. I mean, that's a very wrong term
Right.
to call anybody
So
black.
the same way the Red Indians are called Native Indians or
I found there are
American.
some in this place in Chicago. I found a place. There is a museum of the Indians, native Indians of America, and lot many things
Yes.
like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. They have become a museum piece now.
Yeah.
Yeah. They
it's like it's like us that we are an extincting species.
That's right. What they did was, these used to survive on American buffalo. If you have
Hmm.
seen, it's a different kind of a buffalo. It's called the American buffalo. So, but the people, Europeans, when they came, they killed all those buffaloes. So the
Oh,
native people would not have any food resources,
oh, I
and
see.
and that's why they almost became extinct. There are
I
few.
know. There might have been some other reason, political as well. They might have been suppressed or kind of a things. Not it's
Yeah,
not
they,
only
they,
food.
they have been suppressed. So have been
It
blacks.
happens in this world
But
everywhere.
there's a strange transformation. When we came, the white people used to mow their lawns, cut their grass. Then, after 20 years or so, it was the black people who were doing the lawn mowing or the grass cutting and other such work. Right now, no white, no black, it's all Hispanics. Hispanics
That's
means people from South America.
that's good. That's good. And I also found one misnomer which we Indians believe that's for the good of America. I found maybe my test case sample is very small. I found all these people, they have a very good family harmony, grandmother, father, although they live separately. But the harmony between the family members, the generations of family members, that seem to be good, especially in our neighborhood there where I live. Yeah.
Which people are you talking about?
American society, I'm talking about
American
general.
people.
What
Yeah.
I mean, what we think as an India, that no,
My,
no, they are no social harmony with each other. Inter social harmony. Yeah.
to a large extent, that's true. But they meet maybe 2 3 times a year. It's not
Oh, I see.
like Christmas and Thanksgiving and things like this.
Festivals and all that.
Holidays, they have a gathering. Otherwise, it's not. Most of the older people, they end up in
Old homes.
yes, old homes and sanitary and where they're taken care of. Medical assistance is free and for those people, so that way it's good. And well, we have after my retirement, I said I worked with insects for 45 years and I have to do something different.
Hmm.
And one of the things I um, strongly believed in is
Hmm.
that if you don't use your brain, you lose it.
That's true.
So,
Yeah, as my master says, either use it or lose it.
right, right. So, two things that you have to keep in
By the
mind.
time he said it, I had already lost many things, but still, very late call.
Wha- One of the things is you walk a little every day, to keep your physical body in good shape. And the other
Yes.
thing is mental exercise. So, talking of mental exercise, the first thing I did was, and you briefly mentioned about that. I think you have a copy of that also. No, probably this is the Mahimna
Oh,
Stotra,
my must totem. Yeah, you have done
and
translation and transliteration about.
so my father used to recite it, and it was in the back of my mind. So what I did is I did a transliteration. I published it twice, once in America and once in Jammu, and distributed lots of copies free to anybody who wanted it or cared for it. And I also made a CD to go with it and gave it to. So the Mahimna Stotra is recited by Ramakrishna Mission fellow in UK, and it's a very clear rendition. And then I was this Gauri Stuti, which
Gauri
is
Stuti. Yeah. It's another.
which is recited in Kashmir, particularly Kir Bhavani, Tulmun. It is recited, and everybody knows it there. So I was wondering, who wrote it first, and nobody could tell me where it came from. And then I found a recording of it from South India, which is very interesting. So it must have been written by Adi Shankar,
Yes,
Shankaracharya.
Shankaracharya.
So because he did stay in Kir Bhavani for some
Srinagar,
time when he
Kirbawan.
came, he had come there. So anyway,
Somewhere around 7th or 8th century or 7th
right,
century.
right. So after that, I wrote the Feeling Homeless, which we have talked about at great length, and
Yes,
something
I got this. Feeling homeless is here.
right,
You
right.
can read this book, and there is another that is History of Kashmiri and its
And
pundits.
its pundits.
Yeah, there are two
Uh,
books.
to,
I
to,
have read almost the one and the another. I have, I mean, just a brief visit because there are the articles and it's a chronological. What is, I mean, Rana sir, there have been so many books, so many. We have books and books and books on the history of
on
Kashmir,
his right.
prevention and quantifying. Nowadays, I mean, 30% may be very genuine. I don't think everybody is a cut copy paste kind, but 60-70% is just the hoarding. But 30%, even 30% is a huge volume. And what is the difference in this book? I mean, what do you think? Because you are a very well wisdomful person and who's listened to such
Well,
great heights and you're a scientist. What is the difference between the other books and this history of Kashmir and its Pandits? Title is very fascinating, yeah.
right.
And Pandit here doesn't
Uh,
mean the priest. You should explain that also on the cover.
no, the major difference is, first of all, I am not a historian, not even a student of history. So the only history I had read about Kashmir was in high school in Kashmir, which was highly biased and very incomplete. But then I read a book by Governor Jagmohan, late Jagmohan, um, My Frozen
Yes,
Turbulence.
that lies here. Would be these all books
Right.
have. Yeah.
Yeah. He gave me. I bought 400 copies of that book.
Oh, why was it so?
Well, we had in '92. I organized the first symposium, first conference on Kashmir here in Washington, and
Okay.
this was soon after the events in Kashmir. And I
Vijay Sazawal,
invited.
Vijay
Uh,
Sazawal was part of it
yes. Well,
because I had a conversation with Vijay Sazawal
right,
of later.
right,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, he did not live in Washington at that time, so he was connected. Yes.
Okay.
Um, but I invited Governor Jagmohan, and there
Oh,
was a controversy. The ambassador, Indian ambassador, did not want to be present in the conference
why?
because
Because Jagmohan has come.
because of Jagmohan's presence, and there was something conflict between the two.
Oh,
Jagmohan belonged to a different ideology, and
and
the then
Jagmohan, he was a very stern person as well. In even
right,
younger days, he was a very stern person. He
yes,
used to take very strong decisions, and people would naturally don't like. This also
right,
happened with as a personality trait. I'm saying, yeah.
yeah. I had a very close relationship with him.
Oh,
So
I see.
and but the purpose of that conference here was to create an awareness about what was happening in Kashmir. People didn't know.
Okay.
Uh, it is shocking, maybe to you too, that even the government of India people in higher up did not know what was happening in Kashmir.
They had no grassroots reality understanding. Yeah.
So, if you remember George Fernandez, he was a
Hmm.
minister. He
He
came,
was a defense minister, probably. No,
yeah,
yes, defense, probably.
no, before that, I think
Before. Industries,
labor.
labor
But
and meat.
he came to Washington and he asked me, he said, "Can you give us some information what was happening in Kashmir?" And
Come on, a minister.
I was shocked. I said, "It's your government.
You don't
You
know.
should be providing the information to us, not the other way around." But anyway, so yeah, going back to the book here. So
We're
other
talking
than
about the
that,
book.
I did not. I just wanted to know a little more about the history. And since I'm not in that field, I wrote down 10 chapter headings, and
Okay.
then I started looking for people. It was a long process because many people declined,
Oh,
and yeah,
why
I
did they decline? I mean,
uh, because I had told them, I said, this has to be a fact based.
dispassionate. Yeah, no
You
propaganda.
you cannot have biases in it,
Bias thing. Yeah.
and so why is this different, or how is it different from other books? uh, there's a little bit of bias. I would say that it's not purely unbiased, but to a large extent.
You
Like
have been able to keep
I'll
it
give you
clean.
two examples. I had heard of um, atrocities that were done to
Hmm.
Muslims in Jammu.
Yes.
And in 1947, I had, in fact, an eyewitness account of
Yes.
that.
Yes.
And but the author of that chapter uh, declined. He said, "Absolutely not. I'm not going to accept or write about that."
Why? You should. Why don't you write the reality? You should come clean on everything.
Well,
Very unjustified. Yeah.
the same way, uh, I had heard about this Makbul Sherwani.
Yes.
Makbul Sherwani,
Somebody
this,
said. Some people say that's a myth, but that's a wrong thing. Mahmoud Sherwani
well,
was a real personality.
well,
Yeah.
our honors, Kashinathji Pandita,
Yes. Yes.
he refused to accept uh, his legacy or his role. And then
Krishnaji has a different view on that. I have
right,
heard.
right. Well, but he is correct because he lived in Baramulla and he had
Baramulla
first.
had a devastation. Srinagar and adjoining areas were not that, affected because national conference workers were there. They
Right.
defended the families. But extreme areas like Baramulla, they were, helpless. So he has seen those atrocities.
He has first
And
six.
worse, he has seen worse situations. I cannot relate here what
Yeah.
he told me on my conversation. My goodness, it is very
Mm,
shocking he had they had to become, they had to work as laborers. And
yeah.
people used to, Afghanis used to come, they used to put a row, complete row, and they used to segregate people. Where are the pandits?
Yeah.
And they used to kill them, something like that.
Yeah.
Where NC worker was not abundantly available in the borders. So we have to give them that kind of a justification. That's what I feel rational.
So I did myself some research on Sherwani, and I found some things very interesting. His aim was like Sheikh Abdullah's to make Kashmir a independent state, a Muslim state, and he was deadly against Pakistan. But his agenda was the same as that of Sheikh Abdullah.
Who's
Makbul Sherwani's.
Acha Makbul?
Sherwani. Sherwani.
Okay.
So then there is this Brigadier Usman. He was another person who saved Punch.
Yes, he's a great personality. Great
Yeah.
personality.
He was actually offered the chief of the
Higher
army
ranks.
staff position in Pakistan, and he declined that.
Yeah, even
So
for that matter, Sheikhubla was against when Jinnah came to Srinagar. Sheikhubla totally,
yeah,
overwhelmingly opposed him.
yes,
Or Sheikhubla had a lihaz, despite of whatever, because we were reduced in the absolute thin, slender minority, and majority democracy majority always gets the benefits and other aspects also. But
right.
he had the lihaz. That generation had the lihaz till the time he had associates Kashmiri Pandits. But there are other sides as well. I don't want to go into the politics now. But he was a personality, no doubt about it. He was a personality. But I don't
So,
know. Dogra Raj. If I suggest that most authentic researcher nowadays, especially even I can contribute, but I'm not that deep and that diligent. But I think this Avatar Mota is the most brilliant man, especially when I read this title Dogra Raj. He has written many of my conversations have been with him. Kashmiris in freedom struggle, Kashmiris in film industry, and Dogra rule institutions building in Dogra rule. It's a great subject. You have chosen it very wonderfully. Yeah.
uh, no, the person who wrote was Colonel Tej Tikku.
Okay.
Uh, yeah, but I had approached Mota Sab on that,
So you had
and
approached him.
yes,
He could have.
for
He
for
was the
for a
best person.
no for a different chapter, not the Dogra Raj,
Achha, not the dog.
not the.
He is a. Anyway, you all are Bansilal Kaul. I don't know. I know these people. Ashwani Shango, Ashok, Bansilal Pandit. Vijay Sazawal is a very rational person. He talks sense and
Yeah,
he
well,
talks a balanced way. Huh?
his point of view is that Kashmir Kashmiri Pandits will survive because of the people who are left back
Yeah, he
behind,
says that.
who did
I
not
don't
take.
know. I don't know how
So
he has told me in my conversation as well, and my fam. But I don't know. How the times have changed, and let us see. How his doctrine survives.
well, in my recent lecture or speech in Jammu, where Jatinder Singh was there
Dr. Jitendra Singh.
on
I
on
was talking about your philanthropy because you have. I don't know. You have been doing philanthropy right from the beginning and helping the institutions, or it is just the
Uh,
post-retirement things you came in? Yeah.
and no, it's post retirement because I still feel that's one thing missing among Kashmiri Pandits is they live for themselves, not for the community, unfortunately. And because you mentioned earlier this global Kashmiri Pandit, the
Cultural center, Hindu
cultural
culture. You want
center, yeah, that unfortunately is my greatest failure so far in life because we organized a group and we wanted to build a cultural center here in Washington area. And I know people have money; they could,
they are
and
very rich Kashmiri Pandits nowadays. I mean,
yeah, and so, but not one person came forth, uh, with, with the money. To the extent that somebody living in California said, "How is it going to help us?"
my goodness.
Because it was, in a different city. So I still have not completely given up. I hope the next generation would take up.
Maybe
My
somewhere somebody will come.
my
It has
my
been it
main
has been with
main
us.
objective there is that like I have uh, I have a large collection of books, and lots of them are on Kashmir. And
Oh,
these books, I don't know if they'll find a place after I'm gone. So I wanted some place where we could, and like me, there are other people who have books and other memorabilia that could be stored in a place like that, in a cultural center. But it didn't happen. Uh, Sorry, going back to the book again on the history, there's a
yes, yes.
chapter, the first chapter, nobody has dealt that part so far, which deals with the formation of Kashmir. And the again, I'm not an expert. We found Sandeep Pandita there, and he's a professor there in Jammu. Uh, and
I don't know. Sandeep Pandita, I don't know.
yeah,
I'm
no,
not
but
aware.
but the
Yeah.
thing is, it's what I found was that there is some truth to the fact that Kashmir was a valley, a lake, and but Kashyap Rishi did not drain it. There was an earthquake 85,000 years ago, and this is geology, this is science, and then the valley got again flooded. Um, that was, I think, eh, during Avantivarman's rule in 855 AD.
During General Abdin's time also it was flooded, and during Avantivarman's rule it was also flooded. Yeah.
Avantivarman's time, it
And
happened.
even during Dogra rule in 1903, it was also
No,
flooded.
those are minor floods. Then there was a flood recently also, but this flood, Avantivarman's time, flooded two-thirds of the valley. So up to Bijbehara, the entire valley was underwater again. And this was at that time manually drained. And we got the proof of that. So, because one of his engineers, Suya,
So yeah, that was
yeah,
in General Abdin's time.
no, this was Avantivarman's time.
Avantivarman's time.
Yeah,
Okay.
Avanti,
Suya was in Avantivarman's time.
yeah,
Okay.
Avantivarman's time. He threw coins in the water where it was blocked and asked people to take out the coins and move the rocks
I
and
threw
drain.
the coins and people jumped in
Right.
and they took out
Uh,
that.
and when the Lower Jhelum Hydel project was being built, one of the engineers there during excavation found those coins. So we have that, confirmation of that thing. And so those kind of thing. The other thing was, of course, in most of the written books on history, there's a confusion about Ashoka,
Hmm.
the Mauryan Ashoka, who was in 2, uh, 268 BC, is not the same as there was another Ashoka in Kashmir called Dharmashoka or Ashoka of Kashmir, who preceded him by 1200 years. So,
Okay.
and that clarification, um, and in fact, the entire history, old history of Kashmir that was written, um,
Okay.
is there's some confusion there, and we tried to uh, correct it as much as we could. So those are the things that are different. Then this, all these seven exoduses of Kashmiri Pandits are explained very meticulously. That's another difference here.
That's good. I will then. I mean, I was earlier thinking not to, but certainly I will go to through these chapters, especially the geographical and scientific, which differs with the this Nilmat Puran and other aspects of our mythology and history, prehistoric Purans, something like that, post-historic historic plan, prehistoric plan. So that's so wonderful. So first of all, I would like you to ask. I mean, one thing we missed on that about your tours, travels, Eastern Europe, Central Asia, Central Europe rather, Eastern Europe,
Eastern Europe.
Central Asia, China, Japan, Russia, and probably you were into the Eastern Europe. It was the post Nazi period, and certainly the partition, East Germany and West Germany, Romania, Czechoslovakia, and other Bulgaria, and all other. There is something about this Eastern
Well,
Europe
yeah,
visit.
I would highlight a couple of things. Then, first of all, in '93, I went to Russia, which
Hmm.
no longer was Soviet Union, and it was pathetic condition there that time. We in India always considered Soviet Union the great
Close friend.
um, country, very strong, most powerful, and all that. But I had a postdoctoral fellow there. I was visiting her, and the Russian Academy of Sciences, and the Department of Zoology at Moscow University. Uh, the interesting thing is that the staff had not been, it was November, very
Hmm.
cold. People had not been paid for several months. The heating system had been shut off because they had not paid the bills. You can
No
imagine
food.
how cold it was inside the building. This is the Institute of Zoology at University of Moscow. And so I had to give a seminar. I ended up giving it at one of the professors' houses. So um, very interesting. Then this associate of mine, her father was a brigadier general in the Soviet army, retired, but he
Okay.
worked. So he took me to Star City. Star City is where Soviet cosmonauts or astronauts are trained. And I was again shocked. I felt as if the place was bombed. The broken doors, broken windows, and
Shambles.
it was in very bad shape because they didn't have their economy was in terrible shape. Uh, the other thing is, my host wanted to buy a chicken to cook, and she went from store to store for I don't know how long before she could find a chicken. So it was really bad that time. Uh,
Food scarcity was there, and it was
right, right,
other facilities were not.
yeah. But China was very organized, but every move was controlled by the government. You know, how you walk, where you go, what you say was all watched, every minute of it. And Uh, the Poland, uh, very clean, nice city, very peaceful, but very lazy people. You know, um, so the stores closed at 5 o'clock, which was strange, and they would not even talk to you at that time because it was all controlled by the
Celebration.
government, and they didn't care whether you sold anything or did not.
Oh, I see.
So,
That was China. Hmm.
but later years, I was
Hmm.
involved in a project with Uzbekistan,
Hmm.
and that's Central Asia. And we have great relations because Babur came to India from Uzbekistan.
Yeah,
And
Afghanistan then is absolutely, yeah.
yeah. So I went to Babur's hometown in Fergana district, and they're building a big museum there for Babur. And uh, so again, this was control of termite projects there
Okay.
in Uzbekistan. Very good, very hospitable people. You know,
People are
reminded
good.
me of Kashmir, and great food, nice. But surprising thing was the language. Uzbek language has a lot of common words with Kashmiri language,
With Kashmiris.
and it's all because of the Persian roots of the
Persian
folk.
connection, in a way, at one point of time, these influences are, I mean, they were exchanged from between India and this
Yes,
Persia,
the Silk
much, much
Road.
earlier times. Yeah.
The Silk Road was the connection, and they used to come.
Silk Road, and much, much before that, probably it was because of through, yes, that is how the geography goes.
Right.
But there are many things like you have Zoroastrians. That is the Vedic religion. They have they
Yeah,
worship fire. It's all Vedas. It's all
yeah,
Vedas, and the sun worshipping later. So they have common things in the much, much, much earlier past. But
right.
in the times you're talking about, yes, because of Silk Route and other things,
Yeah,
and many things happen in between. Many syntheses have happened. Yeah.
right. So they also elected me to the People's Academy, uh,
Oh,
and that was a great honor. And
Kashinath Panta had also one conversation with me on, I don't know, it was on Uzbekistan or it was on where, I mean, he
no,
has been to,
he did his PhD in Iran
yes, that I
and
know, but
Persia,
yeah,
and
yes.
he has traveled in Central Asia.
And he had one particular conversation on Central Asia. His friend, I mean, who was thrown away, then he fought his daughter's cases in United States of America. I mean, when his friend was lost somewhere. I don't know. That's a different
You
story
know,
now.
the interesting fact that I did not know until very recently is a couple of Kashmiris here in US, they got their genetic analysis done. You know, this is to find out ancestry. And 90 plus percent comes from Central Asia. So
90%.
90% of our genes are related to Central Asia. That's
I think during the Kushan's period,
right.
Kushana period, it was all the Indian culture. It was all Indian culture, Buddhism, or for that matter, all those I mean, hybridization of Shivism and other forms of worship or culture. It
Right.
had sprouted into the Central Asia. And, I mean, Kanishka is one of the greatest examples. Yeah.
Yes. And these people, when they came to India, they came to Kashmir, they didn't have a religion. So, whatever religion they found in Kashmir, they adopted
Yes.
that. So, in fact, lots of them adopted Buddhism.
Yes,
Yeah.
Buddhism, because Buddhism was prevalent in those times.
Yeah. And
And
one of the things that we showed in this book is that Buddhism was as strong in Kashmir as Hinduism, and few people did not like that idea. They said no, it was always Hinduism, and
No, no, actually, what happened there, like, people don't have knowledge, they don't read. They talk very, cynically. I mean, they talk in bipolar
Yeah,
situation.
yeah, yeah.
But it is not that. I think Buddhism, even during the rule of Laltaditya, the Buddhism, he made the Buddha Vihars as well as Shiv temples. Avanti Varman
That's right.
also same thing happened.
Yeah,
They were simultaneously because Buddha was considered as a Vishnu avatar
they
in Kashmir. Buddha,
coexisted. They peacefully coexisted for a long
yeah,
time.
and it was considered Buddha was considered a Vishnu avatar like Rama and Krishna.
Hmm.
He was considered an avatar by the Kashmiri population or for that
Right.
matter. So that is how it was, and it was not the main trunk was main Vatavriksha we call in Hindi,
Hmm.
Vatavriksha banyan tree.
Yeah.
That was the originally Vedas. So they were the further, darshana experiences, spiritual experiences, and like Jainism, you can see like Jainism and other. And this is after Shankaracharya came in, and Shankaracharya, through his conversation, he brought back this, you know, we can't say Hinduism. There's not a single religion in Hinduism. Shivism. He brought the Shivism. Yes, sir. Please continue.
Well, talking of that Hindu history, uh, I'm recently I have been reading Garuda Puran, Garud Puran,
Garuda Puran. Yeah.
Garud Puran, and there are passages in that that have shocked me really about Hinduism. You know, the evolution, the changes. So what we consider as thousands of years old is very recent. In fact, our religion is constantly changing. And so some of the things that we consider right now as the basis of Hinduism are very recent. Recent, I mean, like 1,000 years old. So,
Actually, my sister died very recently. So on there was one assembly there. They asked for Garuda Puran, the citation.
yeah,
I refused it because it was so shabby.
it
And
is.
नरक में जाएगा वो करेगा. I said no, no, nothing doing. Bring Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah.
Bhagavad Gita and recite Bhagavad Gita. So Gurud Puran is, I think that is a falsification. I don't consider Gurud Puran to be something, very ancient. But yes, I went to Ramakrishna Ashram yesterday and I bought those, this what is it called is uh, this four books on this, which has been written by a very great writer. But it must be around, what do you call it, 2,000 years back or 3,000 years back. There are some actually considering the entire this periphery of practices, spiritual and ritualistic here,
Mm.
as one religion that is known as Hinduism is a misnomer.
Yeah.
That is why what I consider.
I would very strongly suggest because to get this, in fact, this is the book. It's by
Devdutt
Patnaik,
Patnaik is a great man.
Devdutt
He's
Patnaik.
a brilliant man. Yeah.
It because other than those practices, post-mortem practices, there's something there which is very interesting, very important. Um, one of the things that I found was that the horse was brought to India 1500 years ago.
Ashwa.
Uh, and so in Mahabharata, when we say the Rath, had so many horses and all that, those are additions that have been made much
The
more
later versions. Later
recently.
versions.
Yeah. The original Mahabharata was only 25,000 shlokas. Right now it's 1 lakh. So
Yeah, that
everything
is the
has.
interpolation. It has even happened with the Laleshwaris. I had a conversation with Professor Shafi Shaw. Laleshwari's Lalvak. You
Yeah.
can see that there are 60, 50, more than 60% is interpolation.
Yeah.
There was no But Musalman in those times. Mazan But the Musalman. There
Yeah.
is one couplet which is said. It was
Yes.
There were Turks. They were known as Turks. Some
Right.
of them who had come in those times, and Hinduism was very predominant in those times. Even Shah
Mhm.
Hamdan's courtiers they were all practicing Kashmir
Yes.
Shaivism. So nobody was it culturally. It was not yet started. that na, the general acceptance to the exotic culture or religion, whatever.
Right.
So that was a great interpolation. So it happens, sir. It happens everywhere. So it has happened here as well. Yeah.
So we left one subject, which is
POA.
reincarnation. No,
Yes,
reincarnation.
reincarnation is something. I mean, I have read yesterday. I said now for reincarnation purposes, because I have read reincarnation of Peter Proud's on a lot of movies. Apart from movies, even Krishnamurti, Osho, all these great people, great spiritual drishta, they have also written on incarnation, and we have many scriptures where incarnation is there, and there are some practical now. The social media is very vital, so you have stories. Yesterday, I was just reading and watching a particular person. He is doing regression, like many lives, many masters.
Yeah.
That Dr. Brian Weiss. So regression analysis is being done, and the past lives. So that is a very fascinating subject. Please, sir, please say something about reincarnation. Your
Well,
forthcoming project. Yeah.
yeah, that's taking most of my time right now. Is the book on reincarnation? Is it a fact or a myth? So,
Yeah.
but at the end of it, once I complete this exercise, I can guarantee you that any reader would be totally convinced that it is true,
It's true.
and it's not based on religion, because it does happen in every religion and in every area of the world.
But
The
people don't. Other religions don't believe it.
No, it's surprising. That's again a misconception, because in the U.S., from a poll that was done a few years ago, 36% people believe in reincarnation. In fact, the greatest research institute on reincarnation is right here in Virginia,
Oh,
and so Professor Stevens, who he passed
still.
away, but he did tremendous
Yes.
amount of work. And so,
There is one tribe in one religion in probably in Gulf, or I don't know, in
no,
this part. I,
in
they
in
also
so
they also believe in reincarnation. Yeah.
yes, yes, the one of the stories, in fact, that I had heard was of a Kashmiri Muslim. Of course, he would not admit it now, but
Because now it's
yeah,
everything is changing into the dogmatic things. Yeah, and it
he
has become political tool everywhere. Nobody
well,
accepts the reality.
he and his wife left Kashmir. He was a doctor. He is a doctor still. He came to England, and their daughter was born in England.
Hmm.
Then they moved from England to US, and by the time she was around 3 or 4, she started talking about her real family, her parents who are in England, who are English people, and she gave all the details. So they got curious. They went to England. They confirmed everything, and came back, and thereafter it was just a hush hush, and no more talking about
No more
reincarnation.
talking. It will be forbidden by the religion or something like
Right,
that.
right.
It
but
happens. It happens.
but yes, there is a entire area in in Lebanon, which they're called Druze,
Good.
Druz,
Yeah, yeah. I've heard about
Druze,
that.
and
Yeah.
Druze very strongly believe in reincarnation.
Reincarnation.
Yeah. And so it happens all over the world. I have examples of it. And then regression hypnosis is another thing. And
Ah, Brian Weiss has done a lot of work. Dr. Brian Weiss has done a lot of
right.
work on this.
Yeah.
I have read that
And
book. That book is itself, I mean, explains. Although it is being said by some people that while we do regression analysis, we give a suggestion to the person on which you are applying, and that suggestion becomes a route towards realizing and manifesting something. That's one kind of a contention which is being said
I,
about regression analysis. I don't
well,
know.
I
But
had
Graham
my
West is a very
I
honest,
had
very
I
yeah.
had myself regression uh, done, but a preliminary one, because there were a couple of things, and this is what prompted me basically to, right from childhood, I could not stand a loud noise like a firecracker. I have never participated in Diwali or the Sara festivities for that
Okay.
reason. And I would used to close my ears or go in inside. And the other thing was a persistent dream that I used to have. So my analysis is that I was a British soldier in World War II who died in Europe and then was born in Kashmir.
Oh,
Yeah.
I have the similar experience, but it is not through regression analysis. It is something I am practicing now. That is pranahuti. It's a very I mean great science, which was prevalent here before 72 generations of Raja Dasharat. But it is a up down energy comes into our body,
Mhm.
and they unfasten your chakras, pelvic chakras, and this unfastening does it unwinds your past. We have a cleaning system. I'm a trainer also for that.
Right.
I was very much active in earlier times. I went to university, but now 1 2 years I'm back to most this gravy and its lust. So I found there is one sister Ida. I still do her. She was. I mean, there are some people, some trainers who are very sensitive because of their work, especially the European ones in our system. So she talked to me other day, and she sat, and I was in a there's a Pearl Hotel there at one place. It's a very beautiful place, very transmitted. I went there, and she suddenly said, "It's an older lady." She said, "Oh, suddenly it came to her because it's not given importance to our system." They said that these things are you are relieving your impressions, past impressions, nothing else. Forget about it. Let's clean you. So she said that same thing came to my mind. She said that two reincarnations talked about immediately, and then she said I won't discuss it again. It came spontaneously.
Mhm.
One is that it was in you were in German army and a brute German army. One, and another time you were in Africa. What are nomads said in Africa? Nomads. There is a word I don't forget. There are some
Uh,
nomads. It was
ma-
in Sahara. I was in Sahara desert like a nomad in
okay.
that. So in two carnations, he immediately said, "These are the you have the impressions. There are certain things within you." And
Mhm.
she told me, "Why don't you do? I mean, regression analysis. There are certain
Regression
things."
hypnosis, right?
Yeah, I said, "No, no, I won't do that because I'm already a trainer now. Master is taking care of me. I'm cleaning every day. I'm cleaning the people. Why can't I clean myself?" But yes, I agree with the regression therapist, especially the great Dr. Brian Weiss, and even Deepak Chopra for that matter.
Right, right.
Deepak Chopra is also doing a lot of work, and somewhere down the line, these have the threads with the Oriental thought and Oriental processing. I don't think Orient we have religions. Religion is something which is a foreign word.
Right,
Religion, I mean, we have set of rules which is known as dharma, how to
right.
live a life in a good way, get up in the morning, do your course, attend your crops. But I don't think we have a religion. But this is a great experience that through regression analysis, I mean, you found that you were also in the army.
So that's the third thing we have in common then.
Yes, Madhavpur, Lakhanpur,
Mm.
and
Right.
this month army, serving in the European army. I wanted to ask you one thing. You have gone to the Eastern Europe. Tell me that has Eastern Europe now come up from that that what you called it the cold that period of when it was controlled by the
The
Russia.
Soviets, right, right. It's changed a lot. Yeah, I have. I had lots of contacts with them. It is very much progress since then. Their thinking has changed. Uh,
Okay.
so
Economically also,
economically also it did, yeah, improved.
they had
So
worsened suffered under USSR at that point of time.
yes, they were. Yeah, even Uzbekistan was under USSR. It was one
USSR.
of their states. Yeah, yeah.
But Russians, what I always thought of Russians, they were known earlier times. They were known as polar bears. They were very sentimental people. They eat well and drink a lot, and they enjoy life like that. That best possible writers, Tolstoy to, I mean, all these great writers, great philosophers, they were from Russia. So it had always, I had always this thought in the back of my mind, they are the wonderful people, emotional, and yeah,
Lots of times what we think and what we see is not true,
not saying.
and that's true for Kashmiris also. The amount of brutality that has happened in Kashmir, not only in the Muslim period but prior to that. So the rivalries between different
Yeah,
kings
yeah, the
and
fightings, rivalries, killings, court
killings.
deceits,
Yeah,
conspiracies. There's a brutes in every family. Shakespeare and all Shakespearean drama was on in those periods as well. Had been working with Kashmiri Overseas Association and host of other organizations, and now you talked about your dream project as well, in which Kashmiris are not sensitively feeling. क्या जमन आजकल से ज़्यादा so they talk about the malls in which we went, travels which they did, and they went to Las Vegas and they went to casino and they enjoyed the food and long vacation. They all assemble and then they wear a farron and they think they are Kashmiris and they do this labar lolo. Even the great Vedic chants like Yenze, Venze, that's also disappearing. Now it's
yeah,
all a very low kind of a music, not even folk. So that is I'm a satirical, I'm a critic as well. So I'm saying that. But as a associate of Kashmiri Overseas Association and Indo-American Kashmiri these organizations,
yeah.
tell us some experience about that and with your diaspora in Kashmir. Briefly, we'll just.
Back in 1970, I mean, sorry, 79 and 80, KOA was formulated or was formed here in
Yeah.
US. The whole idea, I think that time probably there were about 250 families in US, Kashmiri families.
Hmm.
And the idea was to uh, get them get to know each other, form a network. So we had a directory and we had an association, uh, and I was associated with that. But in 94, 95, I became the president of KOA. That was when the turmoil was happening in Kashmir. So I visited the camps a couple of times. Again, the ironic thing is that um, uh, the misinformation that was being produced in India, in Kashmir that time, these people are coming and distributing money. We never gave money in camps. And so,
You, you assisted them in, you gave
yes,
them job.
well, we at that time, we provided different kinds of aid
Okay.
in terms of new blankets, clothing, other things. At one time, we provided a ambulance for the people in Jammu. There was a clinic, and we gave them the. Few years later, I found that the ambulance was being used to carry baratis from on marriage ceremonies, and things like these. So it was a large ambulance. It was not one of the. It was like a bus, and it had
Okay, okay.
few
The
things.
van kind, yeah.
Right. Yeah. Not a small van. And but creating an awareness in US was very important for us. That's why since KOA is a non-profit organization, it could not indulge in political activities. We came up with Indo-American Kashmir Forum. And
Fodadar Saab is also there.
yes, he was associated with that. Vijay Sazawal was that.
All
Uh,
wonderful men, wonderful
mm.
men.
So,
Uh,
but,
Jivan Jutsi is also a very, very, very warm person. Jivan Jutsi, yeah.
yeah. So they were all, it was in fact, it's ironic to say, but the idea was hatched in my house. There were lots of non Kashmiris associated with it at that time because they did want earnestly to help. and understand what was happening in Kashmir that time. As I mentioned earlier, the project on the cultural center did not materialize because of lack of financial assistance. But I have on my own been doing small things. Like we had a house in Kashmir
Yeah.
that we sold in 1985, and I left the money in India. I didn't bring it here. And much later in Noida, in Delhi, uh, they were building the Kashyap Rishi Bhavan,
Oh.
and I happened to visit it, and I saw they had a library designated. So I gave all that money to them and had that library dedicated to my parents. And last year I went to Jammu, and my friend and classmate Bansilal Kaul, he took me to
BL
this.
Kaul Saab. BL Kaul Saab rang me up other day. He said that
Right,
your program was to be done
right,
last Sunday.
right. Yeah.
So he was curious enough. Yeah, okay, okay. Professor B.
Uh,
Arvind.
yeah.
I have also done a conversation with him, and also done a conversation with Tina, his daughter-in-law, the
Right.
doctor, this Nasir and
Uh,
Girjadar's daughter. Yeah.
Gilja, Gilja. So he took me to this Gandhi Memorial College, and we came to know
Ruchi
about
Saab.
it. Yes, and Zuchisa was there. So they had this auditorium which was unfinished. Uh, and
Yeah.
we talked about that. It took few months then. So we funded, I mean, personally, I funded that project.
Yeah,
And
he told me, Joshi Saab told me that he was very
it's
grateful that.
it's it's one of the best auditoriums right now. Excellent equipment, facilities, and that
Oh.
was inaugurated by Dr. Jatinder Singh, and so I was
We'll
there
go to
for
a
that.
quick photo tour, and I think this is about your book, Feeling Homeless. So we
Right.
conclude with it. But yes, and now this is about
This is
this is
Uzbekistan.
Uzbekistan. Okay.
Right, right. That's on a snowmobile in Fargo, North Dakota.
Oh, Dakota.
Yes, that's the
This is Jitendra
inauguration of
Singh.
the auditorium
Global-
with Dr. Jatinder Singh and Professor Zuchi.
Professor Zutshi is also there.
Right.
Wonderful human being, very warm.
Yeah. That's my wife next to me. So
Oh,
Santosh.
this is
That's
Aligarh
that's
Muslim
Aligarh.
University.
Yeah, Nawab Ali Yawar Jang was the vice chancellor, so he's congratulating me on election. That's the president of Kenya, Daniel Arap Moi, inaugurating the field station at Lake Victoria.
Oh, wonderful. This your
That's
marriage
my
photo?
that's my wedding picture, only wedding picture.
Okay.
That's the Belgian Academy of Sciences presenting me with a award for biology of communication.
Biology of communication.
Right.
Okay. This is
And you,
Madam and you.
you mentioned that that's the artificial Kashmiri Pandit.
And I know this Kashyap Bandhu had asked when he tried to make the social reforms, he brought the sari in.
Persuades ladies to wear saris,
And
right?
that's why we integrated. No, I mean he was a very sharp man. But
Right.
we are back to our children only know about Farron. They say Farron is something which is, yeah. This is a
I
photograph.
was speaking in
Rotary
Minnesota
Club.
to the Rotary Club. Yeah. That's one of the senior senators from U.S., Steny Hoyers, and I'm explaining to him what is happening in Kashmir. 1991. That's the election to the People's Academy of Central Asia. And that's the recent last month inauguration of the auditorium. At one time, I was teaching electron microscopy in Minot State in US.
That's again Jitendra Singh and your
Yeah,
wife.
presenting a bouquet to my wife. Oh, look at that. That's the uh, high school graduation picture. You see,
DAB?
DAV High School, Amira Kadal. And
Yeah, we teach.
I am on the front row,
Sitting.
the third person from right,
Oh, yes.
and Shamunath Kachru is there.
The teacher you mentioned.
Right, right.
He's the person, I mean, sitting one. I mean,
Yeah, sitting with the principal is with the um, headgear, the dastar, and
okay.
Kachru Sahib is without. This is again the auditorium.
Okay, I can see the people I know. Jalali Saab is there.
Yeah.
Mr. That Ban Saab is there. And Kiran Patalji is there. Patal Saab. And this is again the history. This is your
Right.
childhood
Yeah,
picture.
this is the first picture of myself. Yeah,
Taken where? I don't know.
in Srinagar. Yeah, in Srinagar.
Imperial, or I don't know which was the photograph
No,
there.
no. My grandfather was a maternal grandfather was the first photographer and printing press owner,
Kampasi?
Krishnath Kampasi.
Oh. Tell us something about a bit about your legacy, like maternal grandfather. Just brief, just brief. Then we'll conclude.
Well, yeah, the Campasi, that was something I learned. Somebody read my this book, and I had mentioned it there. So he said, Campasi doesn't mean a campus. That's what I had put. Then he found out from somewhere on internet that there is a German camera called Compass, and since he was carrying that German camera, and that's why they were named Compasses.
Oh, I see.
So you learn every day. But
That's true.
yeah, it is. He had lots of
Hey,
connections.
I mean, it's already 2.25
Right,
past
right.
time. So,
Wonderful
as you
to
said,
meet you.
Sheetala's conversations, we don't know how time elopes. That's how this format is.
Well, at
And
least it worked today.
yeah, yeah, it worked well, and probably. Thank you very much. You came, and before you go,
Thank you.
what do you anything you want to tell to the youngsters, the future of Kashmiris in general, Kashmiri
Yes.
community, and the people in general, yeah.
Well, there,
Youngsters,
there is a movement in US and elsewhere about maintaining, preserving our culture. And so I was very keen many years ago. So I started looking at people who had left Kashmir back in 100 years ago, and they had been following some of the cultural practices, but the language was gone. So I wouldn't worry too much about, because I know preserving a language needs, you have to have a base, you have to have people in large
interaction within,
numbers
yeah.
to write. And so, but there are certain things that we need to preserve. And my emphasis is, for example, Shivratri. But the present format is something, and I can already see uh, our grandkids probably would never perform any of that traditional Shivratri puja and other things. So I am in the process of making some simple version of that.
Okay.
make it a cultural practice rather than a religious one.
Yes, yes.
And
Ultimately, apart from spirituality, religion is nothing but a culture.
right,
And when we are more ritualistic, it becomes dogmatic. When we are less ritualistic, it is rejoiceful. It brings harmony. And spirituality is something that's your communion with the God. That's something
yeah,
very higher,
that's
at higher
that's
pedestal.
that's
So they
that's
are
a
in a way,
personal level, and
yeah.
also get involved in community activities. That's another thing. So yes, one thing I would like to say is that in this Gandhi Memorial College, we also instituted a scholarship for 4 students, but we asked them to write a pledge that once they are on their own, they start earning, they should return some of that
To the
to
institution,
to the community.
community. Yeah.
So yeah, and I learned it from some other communities. They do it on a routine basis, and that is very important. The
There are
communities,
there
yeah,
are some very wonderful some people who are doing real practical work in
right,
this domain, but most of us are doing labar lolo, and they are doing politics and talking. This labar lolo is a word which I should
yeah,
have not used, but it is a metaphor. So they talk here and there, and this I mean, without any meaning and concept, they go on speaking. But one thing is there, especially there are a lot many people, maybe 10 or 12 or 15. They are working very seriously. There's one gentleman, I'm going to bring him, who's bringing this Kashmiri language, he's teaching Kashmiri language
yes,
to the youngsters. I mean, language is also one component.
yeah,
Even the people who are not Kashmiris and have married into Kashmiris, even if they learn the language. And now I've heard even this Kashmiri ancient or Lipi, that what you call Sharda.
Sharda, Sharda,
Sharda is being even taught in so many universities and so many institutions. It's going.
yeah,
So work is going on in a way, and certainly we cannot be detached. As I always say, that it is the we have a common legacy, and that legacy is very long.
right,
And certainly the language is a cementing factor, one of the cementing factor. Culture is second, culture is next, and
right.
culture has to be simplified, as you said. So, sir, we conclude with that. Thank you very much. You came. Wish you all the best, good health, long
Thank
life.
you.
And I'm really, obliged that you finally came to the Shidla conversations. Thanks a
Thank you
lot.
very much. Enjoyed. Okay.
Thank you. So that was Dr. Ashok Rena. I hope you enjoyed this conversation, and we talked about many wonderful things. So I'll conclude with this poem with my another favorite, Mahadevi Verma. हूँ वही प्रतिबिंब जो आधार के उर में, हूँ वही प्रतिबिंब जो आधार के उर में, नील धन भी हूं, सुनहली दामिनी भी हूं, नाश भी हूं, मैं अनंत विकास का क्रम भी, त्याग का दिन भी, चरम आसक्ति का तम भी, तार भी, आघात भी, जंकार की गति भी, पात्र भी, मधु भी, मधुप भी, मधुर विस्मृति भी, अदर भी हूं और सीमित की चांदनी भी हूं. With that wonderful couplet, wonderful lines from Mahadevi Verma, my mother's favorite, my favorite, a great poetess of the Chayavad. I hope you had a very wonderful conversation. Thank you very much. Good night. Namaskar, Shabakar, Jai Hind.